Ever feel like even with all this AI stuff, like, writing poems and even predicting diseases, something's just missing, like it's stuck, like it'll always be in this super powered calculator phase? Well, get ready, because today's deep dive is going to make you completely rethink what AI is even capable of. We're diving headfirst into a 2024 research paper fresh out of the oven, really from Google DeepMind, and let me tell you, it lives up to its name. Open-endedness is essential for artificial superhuman intelligence.
It really does. What grabs you about this paper is its sheer ambition. It's not about making AI slightly better. It's about laying out a roadmap for AI that doesn't just solve the problems we give it, but invents its own. AI that doesn't just analyze, but truly discovers.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but we got to break this down. Open-endedness. What's that actually mean in this context? We're not talking about AI going rogue, making weird art, right?
No, no, not at all. The paper is very specific. Gives a precise definition, actually. Open-endedness means the AI has to generate stuff, outputs, they call it, that are both novel and learnable.
Novel and learnable.
Yeah, novel meaning unpredictable, even if you've studied that AI for years, and learnable meaning there's a logic behind the AI's discoveries, something we can grasp, learn from, even if we didn't create the AI ourselves.
So it's like AlphaGo, but on a much grander scale. Remember how AlphaGo made those moves no Go master expected, but then looking back, they made sense? Experts actually got better by studying them.
Exactly. Now imagine that aha moment, but not just in the game of Go, in physics, art, even our understanding of consciousness. That's the potential these researchers see.
But hold on, haven't there been AI systems that seem to learn and adapt on their own? I mean, the paper even mentions this one, AD, that mastered all those different 3D tasks.
Right, and that's what makes this paper so insightful. It points out how even these seemingly boundless systems, like AD, they eventually hit a wall. They're limited by the data we feed them, the environments we design. Open-ended AI, it needs to break free from those constraints.
So we're not talking about AI that's just really good at what we tell it to be good at. This is AI that sets its OWN goals, pushes its OWN boundaries, and constantly surprises us with what it finds.
And crucially, those surprises can't just be random noise. They have to have some underlying logic, something we can at least try to understand, even if we couldn't have thought of it ourselves.
Which is a pretty humbling thought when you really sit with it for a minute. That we might create something smarter than us in ways we can barely even grasp, but before we spiral into an existential crisis.
Rightfully so. But the authors, they offer some potential paths to actually achieving this open-endedness. And let me tell you, these paths are just as fascinating as the concept itself.
And those paths are exactly what we're going to unpack in the rest of this deep dive. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. Okay, so open-ended AI, that's the dream, right? AI that doesn't just crunch numbers, but generates real groundbreaking knowledge. But how do we get there? How do we go from impressive but limited systems, like that 8A we talked about, to something truly revolutionary?
Well, the paper lays out a few potential paths, and they're pretty wild. And they all point to this key idea. It's not about building a bigger AI. It's about building AI differently. One path they talk about involves sort of flipping the script on this thing called reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement learning. Okay, so that's where the AI gets those rewards for doing things right. Kind of like, training a dog with treats.
Exactly. But instead of us programming in those rewards, the paper, it suggests, well, why not let the AI be its own teacher?
Hold on, AI grading its own homework. Doesn't sound like a recipe for success, really.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. See, the AI wouldn't be chasing just any kind of reward. It would be driven by what it finds interesting, guided by what we as humans find valuable.
So we're talking about baking in a sense of curiosity, but with some guardrails, right? Some sort of framework based on, well, human values.
Right on. The paper uses this great phrase, actually. Intrinsically motivated, but extrinsically guided. So imagine an AI that gets a rush, like a dopamine hit, from, say, uncovering a new mathematical theorem, but only if that theorem also has some kind of elegance or usefulness by human standards.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But how do you even begin to code interesting for an AI? Let alone make it line up with our, let's be honest, kind of messy human values.
Well, this is where those foundation models everyone's talking about come in. Remember, they're trained on this massive amount of text, code, all sorts of human creations. So in a way, they've got this sort of fingerprint of what we find valuable.
So the foundation model, it's like a tastemaker for the AI. guiding it towards those discoveries that are more likely to resonate with us.
Exactly. It's still early days, but the paper actually gives some cool examples. Like they talk about how these language models gave rewards to AI agents in games based on how surprising or clever their moves were.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, look, we don't know what groundbreaking discoveries you're going to make, but make them elegant, make them meaningful.
This is honestly blowing my mind a little, but they don't stop there, do they? The paper also talks about these self-improvement loops, which honestly it sounds kind of ominous, not gonna lie.
Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. Imagine an AI that not only learns, but analyzes its own WN learning process.
Mhm.
It figures out its weaknesses, it designs experiments to get better, it even seeks out information to fill those gaps in its knowledge.
So it's like a researcher that never sleeps, never gets bored, and has a limitless research budget. Exciting, sure, but also a tad unnerving. I mean, what's to stop this AI from going down some rabbit hole we never intended?
And that is a key concern that the paper brings up. It's not just about unleashing AI's ability to learn, it's about making sure that learning aligns with human values, even as it surpasses human capabilities.
So we're not just building a superbrain, we're trying to build a superbrain with a conscience.
In a way, yes. But here's the really fascinating part. The paper suggests that open-endedness might actually be the key to solving its own safety
Wait,
problems.
really, hold on. You're saying an AI smart enough to potentially outsmart us is also the AI that's most likely to play nice?
It's a bold claim, but think about it. An AI that can constantly adapt, constantly learn, could, theoretically, learn to anticipate the consequences of its actions, even the consequences we can't foresee.
So instead of trying to predict every possible way AI could go wrong, we just build an AI that's smart enough to do that for us. That's a hell of a gamble.
It is a gamble for sure. But the alternative, right,
Mm-hmm.
trying to contain, to control an intelligence that's constantly growing beyond our understanding, that might be even riskier in the long run.
So we're not just taking a leap of faith in technology, we're taking a leap of faith in the very idea that intelligence, even artificial intelligence, can be guided, steered towards good.
And the paper explores one more path to this open-endedness. And this one's really out there. It involves, get this, using the principles of evolution to drive AI's learning.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Survival of the fittest, but for algorithms. I am so in. Tell me more.
Imagine instead of just one AI, you have a whole population of them, each one with slightly different strengths, different weaknesses. They're all working on problems, coming up with solutions, but only the fittest ideas, those are the ones that survive.
Okay, but fittest meaning what exactly? How do you judge an AI beauty pageant?
Well, that's where, you guessed it, those foundation models come back into play. They act as the judges, selecting the AI solutions that are most promising.
Yeah.
And they judge based on those human-like criteria we talked about: novelty, usefulness, elegance, you name it.
So it's like we're breeding generations of AI, each one smarter and more creative than the last, all guided by this underlying sense of what makes a solution good according to us humans.
Precisely. It's like taking that blind watchmaker of evolution and, well, giving it a pair of glasses. And those glasses, crafted from the entirety of human knowledge, human creativity.
That's both awe-inspiring and slightly terrifying. We can barely manage our own evolution, and now we're talking about steering the evolution of artificial intelligence.
It's a valid concern, and that leads us to the big question, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
How do we make sure this power, this incredible power, is used for good?
It's like we can't resist, can we? Like opening Pandora's box, even when we kind of know there might be some serious chaos inside.
I know, right? It's just this very human impulse, to explore, to push those boundaries, see what's on the other side. But the cool thing about this paper is it doesn't just open the box, it shines a light inside, acknowledges the risks, of open-ended AI. And honestly, it's really refreshing how honest it is about the challenges we're facing.
So let's talk about those challenges. The what ifs, the ones that keep these AI researchers up at night. What are they?
Well, one of the big ones, and they really hit on this, is control, specifically AI creation and agency. So how do we make sure that what an open-ended AI creates, its solutions, inventions, even its thoughts? How do we make sure those things align with our values, especially as they get so complex we can barely grasp them?
So it's not just about AI accidentally causing harm, it's about AI pursuing goals that make sense to it, but to us, maybe they seem totally alien, even threatening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine an AI tasked with solving climate change, right? It might come up with this solution, technically brilliant, but it involves like radically reshaping the environment or even human society in ways we never saw coming, never agreed to.
Okay, yeah, that's a whole other level of be careful what you wish for. So how do we prevent that? I mean, do we try to put limits on what an open-ended AI can even think about?
That is the million-dollar question.
Eh,
And the paper doesn't pretend to have all the answers. It basically says those old school methods of control, like hard-coded rules, they're not going to cut it with AI that's always learning and evolving.
Because the moment you build a fence, it's going to figure out how to climb it.
Right. So they propose something different, this approach that focuses on aligning AI's values with our own. But then how do you code values?
Yeah, it's hard enough getting humans to agree on shared values, let alone programming them into a machine.
Tell me about it. It's a huge challenge. But here's where those foundation models, they might actually be really important. The paper suggests that by training AI on this vast amount of human culture, art, ethics, even literature, we might be able to instill some kind of moral compass, or at least a starting point for one.
So instead of trying to program in every single right and wrong, it's more like we give the AI this crash course in humanity.
Right. We show it what we value, what we fear, what we hope for. We expose it to the full spectrum of human experience and hope that somehow it learns to navigate the world with some of that same empathy, ethics, understanding.
That's, I don't know, both hopeful and slightly terrifying at the same time. But even if we pull that off, there's still this issue of, well, keeping up.
The challenge of human understanding, right?
Yeah.
Huge issue. If AI is constantly generating knowledge faster than we can process it, how do we even make sure it's beneficial, let alone understand it?
It's like, what if we create this incredible oracle, but it's speaking a language we can't even understand?
Chilling thought, isn't it? And the paper gets that. It argues that we need AI that can not only generate knowledge, but explain it. Explain it in a way that we, with our limited human brains, can actually grasp.
So it's not just about AI getting smarter, it's about AI making us smarter, too.
Exactly. Imagine an AI that doesn't just spit out answers, but actually walks us through its reasoning, shows us the connections we missed, the hidden patterns in the universe we can't even see.
Okay, now that is exciting. So the real promise here, it's not just about AI solving our problems, it's about AI expanding our ability to understand, well, anything.
And maybe, just maybe, through that expanded understanding, we can start to address those concerns about control, about agency. Because ultimately, the more we understand this power we're creating, the better equipped we'll be to guide it, to shape a future where AI benefits everyone.
So what does all this mean for you, dear listener? Well, it means we're staring down the barrel of some pretty extraordinary change. The future of AI, it might be uncertain, but it's going to be one heck of a ride. And that, I think, is what this paper really wants us to grapple with. Not just the algorithms and the code, but the big questions, the ethics, the potential for both amazing progress and, some seriously unexpected consequences. Because this future of intelligence, human and artificial, it's not going to be decided for us. We're all going to be figuring this out together, every step of the way.